Anchor in the buoy. That's your opinion.
All right, another episode, or first episode, or second, or 10th, or doesn't really matter. You're probably not listening to this in order anyways.
We haven't put them all out there, so that's why we don't know what episode this is.
Yeah.
It's one of them.
So I want to talk today on what's your opinion. I'll open up. I want to talk about fake news. I want to know your opinion on fake news, and I prepared a little piece. So let's watch this for a second, and I want your opinion on kind of what's going on. And this is so just to introduce things, this is Jim Acosta, who's a reporter for CNN, Sarah Saunders, who's the White House press secretary, and he's pressing her on basically not calling out anti-Semitism.
Drags down the rhetoric in the debate when you're saying something that's just patently untrue. I mean, obviously
stating their policy positions
but
is not
Democrats don't.
patently
But
untrue.
Democrats don't hate Jewish people. It's just silly. It's not true.
I think they should call out their members by name, and we've made that clear. I don't have anything further. April.
President, you know,
Sorry, Jim.
his
April
rhetoric
11.
after Charlottesville, saying that there are very fine people on both sides in Charlottesville, essentially suggesting that there are very fine people in the Nazis.
That's not at all what the president was stating.
Well,
Not at any point. The president has been incredibly clear and consistently and repeatedly condemned hatred, bigotry, racism in all of its forms, whether it's in America or anywhere else. And to say otherwise is simply untrue. April.
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group.
Okay, so when Charlottesville happened, right, that was the president's statement, and the press has just run with, oh, he said the Nazis are good people, but that's what he actually said.
Yeah, he said there are other people that are not Nazis or white supremacists among them that were good people.
Now, keep in mind, like Donald Trump won an award for being so good at not being racist and liking black people. He becomes president, stuff like this. They take it and, oh, he's a neo-Nazi, he's a sympathizer. Like, so what's your opinion? Like, I look at this and I just go, this is why I have to actually listen to what he says, because if I'm listening to CNN, who I used to trust, I'm just going to get a bunch of Jim Acosta making me think that Trump supports Nazis. And that's actual rhetoric that we're hearing in the news today.
So what's your question?
So what's your opinion? It's not a question. What's your opinion on fake news, on this phenomena?
Oh, on fake news in general?
Yeah.
This is just an example of what fake news is?
Yeah, like I look at this and I'm like, Jim Acosta, this is egregious. You're asking a question that doesn't exist. You're asking a question to set a stage. You're not asking a question in response to that. Trump's words are clear.
My opinion is that it happens. I don't know. The video just said everything I would say. She cleared it up, and that's that.
So what would you say to people who so I see it like people just kind of run. They run with this. They'll go, oh, fake news, fake news. Look at Sarah Saunders defending the indefensible. We know he's a Nazi because we've been saying he's a Nazi for so long.
Well, there's nothing I would say to those people because they'll never listen.
Okay.
End of story. They'll never listen. Someone who wants to think Trump's a racist or Barack Obama's a Muslim or, Bill Clinton's raping little children on an island, you're never going to change their minds. They've set themselves on an idea, and they're just going to stick to that trajectory no matter what. Mm-hmm. That's why vegans and meat eaters, it's pointless for them to argue with each other because you're not going to get a meat eater to go plant-based. You're not going to get a plant-based person to go meat eating based off arguing.
Yeah.
It's just never going to get you anywhere. So it's a waste of both the people's times. I think that, I haven't tweeted. I don't know if I should tweet or not.
But you should follow him at Mr. C. Morton.
Yeah.
All right, you got one for us to watch?
No, I'm just kind of in deep thought about the fake news thing because you don't know what fake news is. Like, there's not enough time in your day if you want to live a productive life to verify news. If you want to go home after work and sit in front of your computer for a long time, figuring what's real and what's not, then that's what you need to do. But I mean, if you're going to be voting in local elections, you need to know the facts. So that warrants your time. If you're going to be voting for the president, you need to update your facts. That warrants your time. But on a day-to-day basis, I don't know if it warrants your time to figure out what's real and what's fake. Until you have to make an action, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thought on it.
You know, I've had this discussion multiple times centering around this idea of fake news. And I look at it like a culture war, right? Like when you control the information, and I'm not saying they, like there's an intentional, I wouldn't say it arises like intentional nefarious, like it's not nefarious intention, but they're fighting a culture war. So when you have people that, you know, the media that have a certain agenda, a certain outcome they're looking for, they tell the story in such a way that it leads that way. You know, the agenda is to impeach Trump and resist at all costs, to take his political capital away. And so there's a huge ramp up in stuff like asking, you know, questions that in and of themselves are offensive. Like when I think it was April Ryan asked the president if he was a racist, pure, the way she asked it, like if he was a racist, like I'm offended by that question. Like I'm offended that you would even level it at me that way. And it's like, I see that a lot with headlines. I see it with, it's like a combination of the clickbait drive, for a culture war.
For us as consumers to that information, it's not, everyone's going to be guilty of it their whole lives of misunderstanding the information they receive. That question to me is a viable question at any point in time when you're in that, when you're an interviewer and there's an interviewee. However, we don't know what happened the days leading up to that. We don't know how many questions have been posed to him. Like, it was a loaded question, and if you can read between the lines, you could see that. But the point is as a consumer, it's people are eating too fast. They're not chewing their food long enough. And so someone on the far right and someone on the far left would see that and make their own opinions.
Yeah.
The question's okay. Everything around the question's not okay, because we know we can pretty much assume why the question was asked, because everyone thinks Trump is a racist. Mm-hmm. But if I were to ask someone if they're a racist in politeness, like I want to know, the answer could be yes or no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously she wasn't. I don't remember the exact question. I just remember even I was like, "Oh, come on," and he's like,
"But I'm just saying, to get offended by that or to get upset about the question wasn't upsetting. It was just, as a consumer, we don't know what led up to that. When someone finally loses their cool on camera, they lose their cool on camera, and you're like, geez, that was kind of unwarranted. But you don't know how much shit he's been putting up with, or she's been putting up with, or whoever's been putting up with before their top blows. Mm-hmm. And so as a consumer, you cannot just take what you see and form your opinion on that. You have to. Most people will never be able to do that because they'll never even walk a foot in that person's shoes.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the main reason why I'm not into politics that much, is because there's no real way to know.
I guess I look at it. It wouldn't matter if it was the president. It wouldn't matter if it was LeBron James. It's disingenuous.
The question is?
That entire line of reasoning that Jim Acosta has, like, you know, does he really believe this? It's like you're putting words in his mouth that he never said. You're referencing statements that he never made,
yep.
Right? So I look at something like that, and I'm like, Jim, you are not a reporter. Nothing you were doing suggests any reporting, right? You are an opinion columnist that has a White House press badge. Like, so you're being rude. It's just, I see that a lot with it. Oh, that went on for a long time. But I see that a lot with what's going on right now in the press. I mean, it's just like you have to read 6 or 7 sources on the same topic just to triangulate to get the facts out of it, because everybody's withholding the select facts that...
That's what I mean, is the question is offensive at the time, but only because of the information surrounding the question.
Yeah. And see, I think where the fake news.
What if
comes
she
is
wanted
where
to know?
They're literally making up.
But what if she genuinely wanted to know if he was a racist or not?
Okay,
instead of beating around the bush and said, "President, are you racist?" And it's like, I mean, if someone has, well, I'm on the president's side on this, but I'm saying if someone asked you a question like, "Hey, do you think she's hot?" Okay, this would be a perfect example. It would be like, I mean, I'm married to your sister, so this is kind of gross. But if I asked you, like, "Hey, do you think my wife's hot?" And you're like, "Are you asking me if I think your wife is hot?" When someone repeats the question, they're guilty as sin. It's like, "Hey, sir, did you just spit on that kid?" And it's like, "Are you asking me if I just spit on that kid?" You know, whatever it is. When you have to repeat the question, I like a yes or no answer. It could be a drawn out yes or no answer, but there needs to be a yes or no attached to the answer. Mm-hmm. So it'd be like, "Are you a racist?" Be like, "Over my life, I've done X, Y, and Z. I've been a part of this. I've been a part of that. I've supported this. I've condemned that. So no, I'm not a racist."
Did you probably didn't see it, but Ilhan Omar was given a chance, just point blank. You know, will you condemn anti-Semitism? She wouldn't do it.
Well, see, this is
She's tricky.
She's not tricky. I'm just not understanding where people's confusion is. She's a devout Muslim.
End of story, right? Like that just is it. You
That's
don't need more to describe. Like, you're a devout Muslim.
Are they-
you wear a
are-
hijab? I'm not questioning or saying that you can't believe that.
But they don't like Jews.
They don't like Jews. It's kind of part of the gig, right? Like, if you're wearing a hijab, you obviously ascribe to the part of Islam that doesn't like doesn't like not only the Jews but the state of Israel both.
That's why I'm not understanding why there's so much confusion around what she's saying. Like,
I know what it is. It's because it's been the unspoken. See, no one has been. Barack Obama would not use the words Islamic terrorist or Islamic extremist. He wanted to separate Islam from the terror. Fair enough. Sitting in a college classroom trying to create diversity or whatever completely underscores the real threat. It's almost like we forgot 9/11. Like, whatever you want to call it, those were religious extremists. They did that. So we can call it that. If they were Christians that had done that or Hindus that had done that, it would be right to call it extremism.
yeah,
We're
swinging too far one way.
Well, we're on a different topic, but
No, not topics. I'm saying with what we're allowing a religion, a culture, Muslims, to come into America and change things, and it is baffling me.
I feel like it's at a cost.
It's just baffling me why it's even a topic. Like they're coming here and changing our culture. Mm-hmm. Not really in certain areas. I mean, it's so minute. It's just we're only aware of it because it's on the news. But parts of New York, parts of California, I'm sure, parts of safe states that are sanctuaries, and it's like, why are we accommodating such a small group of people? Why? Like, we've established this country, and whoever wants to come in is more than welcome once they've passed a background check and they get a visa and passports. They have limited stay. Just, there's so many ways to come to this country and stay permanently or temporarily. Why do they have to change it? Why do people that come in have to change it? Like, we're running a company, America.
It's based in the belief that it's bad, that it needs to be changed because it's inherently
But
bad.
then it just goes all the way to the other direction. And
Like,
then it's going to change again back this way. And then it's going to change back the other way. So
Did you? Okay, so we'll find my next opinion. I want your opinion on.
So my opinion on fake news, to bury it, is do not believe right or left wing what you see on the news, and just run with your gut on it. You need to fact check that thing up and down if you want to argue with someone about it, if you want to believe something about it. If you're going to internalize something you see on the news, you need to put in your due diligence and figure out if what was said is in context and true or false.
Okay, so what do you think about this AOC when she talks about capitalism?
Is it audio?
Irredeemable. I didn't have the exact clip, so I'm just gonna scan till I find one.
Okay.
But yeah, there will be. Well, let's just do this. These guys put it together pretty good.
Okay.
Isn't, to me, it's an ideology
Okay.
of capital.
So
the
this-
most important thing is the concentration of capital, and
Turn it
it
up. I don't
means
know if
that
the
we
listeners can
seek
hear it, 'cause
and
I can barely hear it.
prioritize profit and the accumulation of money above all else, and we seek it at any human and environmental cost. That is what that means.
No, wrong, so wrong. It's exactly backwards. And I'll prove it to you. Been on Amazon lately? Each of the thousands of products Amazon offers represents the work of people who believe they have something you want or need. If they're right, they prosper. If they're wrong, they don't. That's how the free market works. It encourages people to improve their lives by satisfying the needs of others. No one starts a business making a thing or providing a service for themselves. They start a business to make things or provide services for others.
When we talk about ideas, for example, like democratic socialism, it means putting democracy and society first instead of capital first.
In a socialist economy, the government has the ultimate power. It decides what you get from a limited supply it decides should exist. Instead of millions of people making millions of decisions about what they want, a few people, government elites, decide what people should have and how much they should pay for it. Not surprisingly, they always get it wrong. Have you ever noticed that late-stage socialist failures always run out of a toilet paper?
Because at the end of the day, as workers and as people of society, we're the ones creating wealth, not a corporate CEO. It's not a CEO that's actually creating $4 billion a year. It is the millions of workers in this country that's creating billions of dollars of economic productivity a year.
I speak from personal experience. When I was the CEO of the company that owns Carl's Jr. and Hardee's restaurant chains, we spent millions of dollars every year trying to determine what customers wanted. If our customers didn't like something, we changed it.
All right. So that's
Okay. So, all right. First thing I want to.
one of the quotes that she says on there in this thing is she says, "To me, capitalism is irredeemable."
Yeah. So, first thing is this is a thing that's been going on for a long time, ever since there's been a state federal feud. The federal government, I would say Republicans are somewhat grouped
Wait,
into this.
are we talking about economics
We're
or governing?
We're talking about her first comment that to build a socialistic democracy, which is supposed to be the socialism that works.
Mm-hmm.
To do that, let me back up. She is basically saying, hey, we're busy. Sorry, we're busy. So she is saying that she wants to force everyone to do the right thing. Now, when this was playing, I was able to formulate the idea a lot more clearly. So the federal government controls the national forest system, right?
Okay.
The states rarely control the parts of the national forest.
Okay.
And it's because they abuse the power.
Okay.
That is a great example that Democrats and people who want to control other people use when it comes to doing the right thing.
Okay.
So it's a lot like children. Like you make them do the right thing all the time because it's good for them, like taking baths, taking your vitamins, things like that. So what she's saying is she is saying capitalism is bad. This is the psychology I'm going through here. She's saying capitalism is bad because the people get what they want, but what they want is not what they need.
I don't think she's saying that at all.
That is what she's saying. She's saying a product is... So he's saying, that CEO guy...
that we change our products based on the needs of the people.
Based on the needs of the people. And the needs of the people are not always the needs, they're the wants. The wants of the people.
Okay.
So they're not always good. That's where she's coming from in a long, drawn-out back history of why she thinks the way she thinks. She is not thinking that what the people want is what is good. She's basically trying to force people to get what they need, whether they want it or not. Forcing your kid to take a bath. Forcing your kid to drink his milk. stuff like that. That's the difference between a free country and a not free country.
Well, I think socialism is based in the idea that somehow because disenfranchised peoples or suffering exists or workers that feel exploited, so therefore the government needs to come in and intervene and equal the playing field, redistribute wealth, whatever. My challenge is this. When we were coming up, so when you and I were in college and in high school, there was a healthy debate still going on with regards to big federal government, small federal government, local government, not local government. We've left that plantation. George Bush was a big government guy. He was a Democrat. He just wanted tax cuts, so he ran as a Republican. Bill Clinton was a big government guy. George Bush, H.W. Bush was kind of a big government guy. Reagan was not. George H.W. Bush didn't always continue what Reagan, did. Obama has been a big government guy. So I feel like a lot of times we're having this socialism discussion, and we think we're having a Democrat-Republican, federal government, state government discussion. We're not. We're having an economic discussion, right? We're having a discussion. When she starts talking about capitalism's irredeemable, she's talking about the market of when you wake up, you're a free person with no job. You got to go make something happen, produce value. You have the freedom to do that. She's looking at it from a perspective. There's enough people that don't wake up and do something for others because they haven't figured it out yet. So she's going to captivate industry, do whole-on takeover. So it's like it is the federal power, but it's beyond that because now she's talking about a command economy where the government says, this is what we're doing. We're building this car. So I get what you're saying, but it's beyond that. We're not.
Let me stop you there.
Because let me finish my thought. A good Democrat, which I traditionally used to think I would be, like I would be in favor of social programs, stuff like that. But don't touch. Allow me to wake up and start a business. Don't regulate me.
Sure.
Allow me to do that. You can like the Nordic countries are not socialist. They're very capitalist. They have support free markets, but they have a social safety net. That's a different conversation. She's left the plantation when we're talking about a social safety net.
I know. So the government intervening is necessary because humans by nature do not want to do the right thing. They don't want to get up early. They don't want to exercise. They don't want to eat food that tastes like crap, but it's good for you. They don't want to do the things that are good for them. So in capitalism, you separate the winners from the losers, the doers from the don'ters.
They self-select. They self-separate.
It's self-selected. It is by natural selection in capitalism who wins and who loses. Because as long as you're free, you can make choices to win. So government needs to intervene to get the people who don't have their shit together and help them get their shit together. That's what safety nets are. That's for people who try to do things and fail at it. They don't fail because they couldn't make it happen. They fail because of themselves. They fail because they made a bad choice. They put their money in the wrong place. They chose a market that was on its way down when they thought it might have been on its way up. They made choices that were bad, and they need a safety net to help them move on. That's about where it ends. You can't take an entire existence of people and take away their need to make bad choices. I had a quad shot coffee this morning that was like 280 calories. I could have just had a regular coffee with nothing in it that was 0 calories, but that tastes good. Like, it's just all about choices, and she wants to take away choices through large government. She wants to force people to do the right thing. She wants to force people to eat their vegetables.
And I think the problem with this is where it becomes real fundamental is that there's an assumption that she thinks she knows what is better. Like when we're talking about the Green Deal, like, oh, we should just kill all the cows.
Yep.
We should just replace every structure. Like it really brings to the forefront, and I love AOC for this, the idiocy of that line of thinking. Every line of thinking we have, you should take a line and you should go, how do I take this to the extreme, right? And that's what the Constitution, in my belief, is. The Founding Fathers fought and fought and fought because they took everything to its extreme. How can we destroy our own government using our own document? And let's prevent it. Let's put checks and balances, right? And so ultimately, it's based in this idea that when you wake up, you have some big R rights. When you wake up, you're free. You live like in a state of nature without anybody doing anything. When you just wake up, you're free. No one tells you what to wear. No one tells you what to do. So the United States shifted from every previous government to say, we want to do as much as we can to preserve that state of nature, that state of you have some kind of free will and choice. Now, obviously, you have to interact, so we have to regulate these things and all that stuff. But the idea that we remain free, that if you want to make a bad choice, you are free up until the moment you make that choice and actually do something, right? Like you have freedom of thought, you have freedom of speech. Now, if you do something bad, that's bad for the group, bad for the party, we'll have to take action. But ultimately, we're going to if you want to go be a hippie and live in the woods and not work in this country, you can do that.
Yeah,
no one should be able to round you up and tell you to work.
So here's why I agree with you.
They can tell you can't buy food at the grocery store because you can't afford it.
Here's why I agree with you, but here's the flaw in that. So there is a flaw in wanting to be completely free, like actually what you would define as free, where no one tells you what to do ever.
Mm-hmm.
She says the CEO doesn't make the money. So we're now going to make a segue into the actual money part of this discussion. Who pays for bad choices?
I think that cost can be, depends on the choice. It is
100% on the person who produces the income. The homeless person who wakes up doesn't make any payments for their bad choices, maybe with their life or their health. Yeah. But financially, they never pay for their bad choices. The person who chases the wrong type of business and the wrong type of economy does not pay for his mistakes unless he's the type of guy that says, I'm not going to file bankruptcy. And then he literally makes small payments for the rest of his life. The people who produce the income pay for those mistakes. What happens when you take away the producing people? Who's going to pay for all these people who don't want to make the right choices? Mm-hmm. So she is saying we need to get rid of capitalism and start socialism because it's not fair that the CEO makes 400% what the average guy makes. You know, that's just a number I threw out there, but it is a large number. So she wants to make it more even. Well, there's a reason there's a CEO and there's a reason there's 5,000 employees at a company. That company would not run without that CEO. I hate to say it, and I hate to break it to people who don't want to believe that.
Actually, I think this is great. You have had a transformation because 7 years ago, I remember driving around with you going bunny blasting, and the socialist stuff coming out of your mouth. You probably don't remember it.
No, I remember it very clearly.
You were like anti-capital. I mean, it was like.
Well, let me tell you where
I
shifted.
I was out of college and now owning a business, so my opinions were starting to dramatically change.
Let me tell you where I shifted. I still want socialism, but it's not right. That's the difference now, is I realize it's not sustainable. And also, I want it because everyone wants comfort. Socialism is comfort.
It sounds comforting.
It is.
Upfront. It's the upfront.
No, I'm saying it is comforting until it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
until you run out of toilet paper.
Until you run out of money. So do I still want socialism? Yes. But you can't. It's just the facts of life that it's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. So that's the difference. Back then, I thought it was sustainable. I didn't understand the exchange of monies the way I understand it now. So the idea of socialism is amazing. It's like for someone like me, you're telling me I can make a livable income and not have to have the stress of a CEO. See, that's also another avenue you take, is not all jobs are created equal.
And somebody's going to have that stress. And somebody is going to have to run it and manage it. And they're going to think that because, in fact, it's a harder burden to bear, they're going to want more money from the socialist program. Yep. Then they're going to distinguish themselves as the ruling class. It's Animal Farm. Like, it is such a perfect...
So here's a perfect example.
It always plays out that way.
Our business is a perfect example of this. This business would not exist without me and you. But who does the bulk of the work that me and you don't want to do? Emily does.
Yeah.
And she's really good at it. But if we were to die today, she would have to go get another job somewhere else because she is not the type of person that wants to start a business.
And it's not just start a business. It's that there's more than just what she does.
She's so good at what she does.
This is where I think a lot of workers, and this is where socialists, they
get fed up.
It's the dictatorship of the proletariat. I'm tired of working on this assembly line. And I know that we're making so much money from that car.
Yep.
They forget that somebody has to manage the assembly line. Somebody has to get how do you get the ore right out of the mountain and all the chain of our economy, what do you wake up and say, what can I do for others? Like the homeless example. You're free to be homeless in this country. Okay?
Someone's paying for it.
Well,
though.
hold on. Let's just pretend no one's paying for it. Okay, that you're free. We are just in a utopian, conservative, libertarian society. You're free to go be homeless. Okay, what's going to make you need to eat? You're going to get hungry, right? That's the invisible hand of the market. There's a demand, right? So now you're going to go in search of a supply. So this homeless person is going to go find food. The person who's got the food says, well, you know, it's a value to me, so what are you going to do? So he trades a half hour of dishwashing for a plate of food. That's capitalism in a nut breakdown. Now, that homeless guy might go, hey, I'm really sick and tired because sometimes I can't find someone I can do dishes for to get a plate of food. So then they go get a job, right? So then you have this natural, got the pain, the avoidance of the bad, the pain causes them to chase after some way to put clothes on their back and a roof over their head, to seek comfort. In a socialist economy or any economy where you have a social safety net that allows somebody to be homeless, but then enables them by taking away the very motivation, the food bank, right? The very motivation that you can only go a couple days homeless before you're going to get some motivation.
Well,
to go
you've now
do
left
some work.
utopia because now you're talking about food banks.
Now
Someone's paying.
Someone's
for this.
paying for the food bank, so somebody is now enabling that homeless person. Now, oh, that's so mean. The cause of homelessness. Look, I'm not making an argument that we shouldn't do something or care for them, but you got to realize when you have an indefinite food bank that's being funded by those who are productive, you are enabling a segment or a class of society that could potentially choose to just not work.
There's some who can't, but that's an elementary example. A real world example is someone who doesn't want to work hard.
Okay, so that's an elementary example, but the budget that Donald Trump just put out yesterday, part of that budget has work requirements for welfare benefits. So in order to get welfare, you have to have 20 hours a week somewhere. So he's been taking tons of criticism because how dare you ask these struggling people on welfare to actually do something for themselves? What's your opinion on that? What's your opinion on benefits versus work hours?
Let's seal this up. So she says the CEO does not make the wealth. I would disagree in most instances. There are companies, I'm sure, that are ran by incompetent CEOs because they were put in that position, not because they earned that position. Yeah. But for the most part, to get the ore out of the mine you were talking about, do you think the people on the assembly line are sharp enough to close that deal at a banquet? Do they know proper etiquette when eating in front of certain people? Do they know how to exchange pleasantries with different countries? The person who closes the deal with the ore mine or the gold mine or the silver mine, they have been groomed their whole life to be in that position. And they're invaluable to that company because they're the ones who are going to get the multi-million or even the multi-billion-dollar contract signed. Mm-hmm. You cannot just take the average guy who works his ass off at that company and have him run the company like a CEO. It is a different skill set, a different job. And if that person who's on the assembly line was forced into that skill set because of their family situation, I am so sorry. That's the socialist in me that wants to just help everyone and make everything more fair because he got a shit deal in life, but that's life. Mm-hmm. That is the nature of life. So the CEOs do make the wealth. They do. Yeah. And when you start cutting down the CEOs, she is going to get a realization that most people don't want to do what makes the money.
And stagnation too.
Yeah, people are going to become stagnant.
Yeah.
People don't want to do what makes the money.
There's no push for what causes innovation? Yachts. The dream of buying a yacht causes innovation. What causes innovation? The Fiji Islands, the dream of sitting on a beach in Fiji.
I believe innovation is also created through a will to do good.
Yeah, sure, but you get what I'm saying though. I'm saying like there's always an incentive. There's always an incentive, and anything that takes away incentives, right, is going to cause a slowdown, stagnation. It's going to do it. And conversely, anything that takes away consequences, right? Incentives and consequences are kind of in the same conversation. If you take away consequences for making bad choices, so if you become a drug addict, let's take away the consequence of homelessness by having so much free housing and low, you know what I mean? To where, yeah, you could be a heroin addict. It's great. You become a heroin addict and then you get a free apartment and then you get food stamps. like I know from my own personal family struggle, my wife and I talked about this last night. We felt so screwed by the system because I got out of college. There's no jobs. None. 2007, 2008, 2009, 0 jobs. You know what's funny? You have to have a job to qualify for food stamps. So I'm out there hustling, doing sales jobs, right, that make me non-employed because I'm an independent contractor. I can't get a job because the baby boomers fucked over the mortgage market, right? Like, there's a whole series of
still
things.
working.
Yeah, they're still working.
We're 35.
And not retiring to let me take their
They're
spot.
70 and still working.
Yeah, so there's a whole slew of things. So I'm looking at it going, well, yeah, the system's screwed. Social safety net doesn't work for people who actually try to help themselves. I would be better off going and getting any cheap job. I literally could get a job for a month, quit it, and then I could go get welfare. But I have to game the system. Why should you have to game the system? I have and did at that time, because of my income level, because of the sales, paid way more in taxes, right, than I would have ever gone. But problem was my income was like this, and then it was 0. Like, there's no basement when you're an independent contractor. Anyways, I go through that, and it's like, now when people are like, well, I need this, I need that, like, look, you can survive in this country without welfare. You can survive in this country without rent controls. You can survive in this country with all those things because we're free. If you take away that freedom, then you can't survive. I do believe that a homeless person, all their circumstances that led to homelessness, they could change, assuming there's not mental health and all that stuff. They could be given an opportunity, and if they chose, they could pursue it. There's lots of rags to riches stories in this country. It's the fact that we're not socialist. We don't have a command economy that allows us to be mobile like that. Like, it's crazy to me that you just wouldn't look at that on its surface and just be like, dismiss socialism. We can talk about a social safety net. But to think that we're talking about changing our economy to a command economy.
Here's all I really care about. I care about sustainability. That's all I care about. Because sustainability, to me, comes along with things that people may not want, but they need. So sustainability, is socialism sustainable? If it was, I'd be okay with it, because we would be doing things that are good. To me, good and sustainability are synonymous. Sustainability is good. Good is sustainability. If you can sustain something for an extremely long period of time, there can't be a lot of bad in it. There can't be. Sustainability is what keeps you alive. When you get dropped off in the middle of the wilderness for a survival situation, or there's an apocalypse, or whatever the case may be, your first thing is, where am I going to get a sustainable source of food, water, and shelter?
Yes, that's right.
Sustainability is the key here. So I watched AOC give a talk, and I vaguely recall her saying she was getting criticized for her Green Deal.
Yep.
And she basically said, we have to try something. If you're not going to give me any answers or give me any direction, then we have to try something.
And she said, I'm the boss.
She said that. But what I'm saying is I'm worried about what happens when we run out of money, when it's not sustainable anymore. I think as a country, we'll be fine. Let's just say we end up like Venezuela. We'll be fine because of our past. We'll just start rebuilding. People will just start rebuilding. So let's just say we go straight socialist. 10 years from now, the next president that's in charge is, let's just say it's AOC. She's the next president. We just start.
And she starts writing checks.
She starts just doing 70%, 80%, 90% tax on the wealthy. And they move to other countries and run businesses there.
We,
we're not. When they talk about the 90% tax, they're talking about people who make up way higher than millions of dollars a year. But the point is those big companies would leave. Then our GDP would lower. Everything would just be fucked. And then we all crash like Venezuela. America, I believe, would be different than Venezuela because we'd rebuild. We would just be like, holy shit, and we would impeach the president, and we would have 20 years of shit until we rebuilt to capitalism again. It's just the cycle it would be. And it would take something like that for people to remember for generations to come why we're capitalists.
Yeah, it's...
I just want to say it. People just got to stop being lazy.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem, is there's just lazy motherfuckers out there who don't want to go get a real job, or who don't think they can get a real job because they had crap parents, because they had a shit deal in life, and they just need to have someone straighten them out.
Okay. You went to college little later in life as an adult who'd already had a little bit of life experience. Okay. So I know that my experience, like I went to probably possibly one of the most conservative schools in the country, and I still feel like I came out with a really liberal education. I came out like voting for Barack Obama, totally bought in on the, you know, kind of the socialism, super into what's going on in North Europe, you know, in my European studies and stuff like that. And now I'm like completely the other way around. I'm like, look, the best thing you can do for someone is make them pay their own bills, move out of their parents' house, feel a little bit of struggle,
is the
feel the reward of actually getting paid for a hard day's labor. Like, I am very much an advocate of the best thing you can do for people is help them help themselves. End of story.
Love.
Yeah, tough love. And that the market, the invisible hand of hunger and the invisible hand of warm clothing and a nice house will push people to the limit they personally will be pushed to perform and succeed in a society. And that the whole idea of just opportunity and being mobile is what's important. So I feel that now out of college, I came out with a much more of a, we'll just say like that workers socialist, like it's the rich people screwing us mentality. So here's my question. What is your opinion on the phrase, those who can't do, teach? What do you think about people who can't survive in the market, end up in academia, and then because they get a paycheck, they don't actually have to do or perform the things that they're teaching, right? You can teach these topics without...
So that's just so complicated.
Let me finish it through. I'm generalizing it. I'm broad brushing it. But we have a broad brush problem in this country, right? So okay, so
the reason it's
those
complicated,
who can't teach.
Hold on. The reason it's complicated is because you're going to the education route, like teaching. I had always thought of that up until just a second as coaching. Like Phil Jackson's a coach because he can't play in the NBA anymore. You know, that type of thing. Like those who can't teach. Like,
oh no, the music, the guy who can't be on the stage in the rock band is the one giving the guitar lessons.
I know.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, those who can't run a business, go teach business school.
But I was saying,
like,
I was thinking free market, and you're thinking government paid.
I'm saying people who don't survive in the free market gravitate to these in the field, but not actually doing it. Like, let's talk, like teaching. Let's talk about it, but not do it.
I'd like to see the statistics, but I believe, just off my beliefs, that most professors never were in the free market.
That's
because it's a career, so they start right after their PhD. So they spend from the age of 18 or 20 years old, somewhere in that range, and when they start figuring out what they want to do, they spend the next 8 years in college, 7 years in college, and then they become a professor, an adjunct professor, and then they get voted on by their peers to be what's it called when you teach?
Tenure.
Then you get tenured after about 10 years of service if you get voted in by everyone, basically, if you play the game right. And then once you're tenured, you spend the next 20 years making your career. So you spend 30 years as a professor from the age of 27 or 28 until you're almost 60. And then, you know, you tailor out the last few bits of years doing consulting, but you consult on something you've never actually done.
Yeah, because you've actually done, but you've been... Yeah.
You've been a part of many projects, but all of it's been under the safety net of a college paycheck.
So that's what I mean. So in that environment, you get this stew of students who then come out with top-notch education, a ton of debt, right, and very little real-world opportunity that matches up with what they've just been talking about in school. It's like you come out of college and you are going to go take those $15 an hour jobs because the thing you don't have is the work experience, or you know what I mean? Like, and degrees, depending on what they are almost meaningless in some cases. Sometimes it's just literally, okay, like
a very real world example as of 5 years ago that I heard a kid on the radio is he graduated with a mechanical engineering degree and he got a job, I think, with Toyota. And it was $25 an hour with benefits. It was a career job.
Uh-huh.
And he had it's like 40 grand in debt. He paid some of it along the way. He, debt, whatever. So he's got, he laid it out. He had like $800 a month in debt payments altogether, and he made $4,000 a month. So he was netting $3,200 a month after all taxes, everything was said and done with a 4-year degree. That's not that much, but at the same time, it can snowball into a lot, because once he pays off the debt, now he's making 4, gets a raise to 30, then he becomes a manager, et cetera, et cetera. So that degree field pays for itself. But I got a degree in psychology. The only way that pays for itself is if I move on to my master's, and then even then the education doesn't make the money, I make the money.
Yeah.
The education just validates me up front, and then once I'm in the door doing whatever consulting I'm doing, I'm making the money.
And I think the sales pitch going into college from our parents and grandparents is that the degree will get you the money.
It's the person.
It's the person. The degree just gets you in the front door. And I think that's where I know I came out of school.
Unless it's a STEM. The degree gets you the money because you can't make up that shit.
Yeah, but even just like what you said, you still start off at a starting wage.
Yeah.
For whatever that
but
field
everyone
is.
would anywhere you go,
Yeah,
even
exactly.
if you're on your own, unless you're a salesman.
Yeah. So I think it's just you get a bad pitch going in, and then I think that without intention, you end up dealing with people who themselves got washed out of the system that you're about to get kicked into. So you're going to you could go into college all bright-eyed and excited, and you come out with this, the world's against me, capitalism's against me, my government's against me, white men are against me, the patriarchy's against me, everything's against me. Where's my intersectional points that I can get that I can co-opt some oppression so I can get some benefit?
The term ignorance is bliss exists for a reason, because I really wish I didn't know everything I know now, because now I view the world as being, or the country anyways, as being very fickle, and the money has to come from somewhere. So you could say, I want this job, so you can go work at the shipyard here and get a really good job that eventually you can retire on. But that money's coming from the government or from private contracts, which if they're not coming from private entities, it's coming from the government, subsidized in one way or another. I feel weird thinking about having a job like that that's not income based. It's pure expense based. Yeah, it's expense
like when you're in the
based.
military, you are a liability.
You're an expense.
The whole
you never generate an income.
Yeah.
And so it feels weird to me now, because like, how long am I now a part? We need the military, we need cops, we need firefighters, et cetera, paramedics, all that. And so certain things that get subsidized by the government have to be in place. But it goes way beyond that in our country, where so many things are subsidized. Farming needs to be subsidized. But it's just scary.
I actually thought about this.
It's scary.
I think that, and hopefully we can be a part of this dialogue. In our country, like the fire department, the police, the military, those are all things we want. They're necessary. But they're not rights. Right? They're not rights. They're not a state of nature. But
they can't be based on paying for themselves.
No, that's fine. They're not rights is what I'm saying. What they are is we have agreed that it's in all of our interest to do that. And so we've all made some kind of informal social compact that, yeah, we do pay some taxes and it goes to these things. And that's there for us, right? Like, why do we pay the paramedics? Because we have a shared value of life preservation. So we want someone to help preserve our life, so we're going to help preserve. So we have these shared values. And I feel like in this country, we're not identifying the shared values very well. We call values rights.
Let me blow your mind with education. So when I got my degree, I took a ton of education classes as electives. Our education system can't agree on anything. It is like 50-50 on what we should believe in, what we should teach. Like, it is so messed up. Like, all this money gets poured into education, even though a lot of people think it's not enough. It's like, it'd be like giving money to someone who's not sure what they want to do with it. Like, so that's another system, but we can't all agree on what we value.
Yeah.
So some people think it should be the no student left behind model. Some people think it should be the free model where you learn at your pace.
Just pass the test and you can move up a grade.
Yeah, it's way over my head, because I almost just want to throw in the towel and say, there's too many people in this country. You can't run something like this efficiently.
Yeah.
Because all the times they point to socialism, anything that's not self-sustaining, they point to very small countries that works because they have a barter system.
You're like, that works better. You could compare that with a state. Like I see that a lot.
It would be like a state doing
let's
it.
look at Norway. It's like, hold on. Okay, Norway is about the size of
smaller than California's
Washington.
population.
Okay, so let's
Yeah.
compare it to, because Washington controls its education. Well, you know, you can't. Yeah, you're right. You can't. Like medical is another big one. Like you just cannot group it that big. Look, man, people in Florida have a problem with skin cancer that Minnesota people don't.
Yeah.
You know, there should be a different liability. Like there should be the ability,
Yeah.
the private market, how that all works.
So go to my Twitter page of the messages I sent. Yeah, go to there. Go to the things I sent you. So I want to get on something that's a little bit different than what we're talking about. I don't necessarily like AOC, but I'll give credit where credit's due. She's trying, but I just don't think she's
What do you want?
old enough. Well, go to whatever I sent you last night.
This one, NASA.
I just thought that was interesting that, you know, we're going to the moon.
This one.
That one. Okay. So this was a big thing, the kids baking championship. I don't watch this stuff because I don't do reality TV shows. But so the guy that the comment, Jim Perry's comment on it was they should all win, you know, and it's because they're children, you know. This is what I mean when I say why I like socialism. He wants everyone to win. Everyone wants everyone to win because the happy outcome is like the hero always wins in the movies, right? I mean, the 999 times out of 1,000, the hero always wins. Everyone wants a winner, but the sad reality, to be the downer here, is one of those kids can win and the rest have to lose. What are we teaching our kids if we just gave them all awards? And we don't, because this is a championship. But I don't even know who Jim Perry is. I just saw it, and he said they should all win. Adults could learn more about competitions from these kids. Like, competitions are meant to find that one person that's your bread maker.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide if he's saying it like they're all amazing and they've all done such a good job. I wish they could all be winners.
Yeah.
Or if he's like literally kind of making a little bit of an advocacy here for it. They should all get their gold star.
I think he's just saying, hey, this was amazing. They should all win. They did so good. Like,
yeah.
He's not being weird or anything. I just saw it, and it. What he is saying for sure is adults could learn more about competitions from these kids. And I think it's because the kids were very cordial because they're kids.
Okay, so here we go. Absolutely agree with you. Not only are these kids crazy talented, but they could teach adults a thing or two about how to work together and be good people. Congrats. Thanks, Julie, at Pickle Mama 97.
So
let's see here. So proud of them all. Yes, buddy, you need to watch. So it sounds like that is what he's saying. It's like they've all done amazing. They all deserve to win.
I know that, but the thing that...
Oh, here we go. They should be. Ranking children as uncivilized, causing early schisms in relationships that would become lifelong pillars of support. No mom, dad, teacher ever inspired a child to be a starlet.
I am terrible at formulating this thought because it's clear as water in my head. What that person just said is what we all want, but it's not what we need to be a sustainable civilization.
Okay.
We all want to feel that connection between our peers and our subordinates and the people above us. Go back to what he said. So
this is coming from BB.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is. What they're saying is right. Is it sustainable? So I don't know who said this quote, but I heard it from Tim Kennedy, and it says, strong men make good times make weak men make bad times make strong men. The cycle starts over. What they're saying sounds nice, but does it build strong men?
Have you seen the picture?
Or
of
women.
That?
We can say build strong women too.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm just saying what you want is not what you need.
Yeah.
And I didn't see this tweet and think to myself, oh man, you know, I got to just oppose what this guy's saying. I'm just saying I saw it and was like, these are children that are going to grow up to be adults. Let's just be honest. When you're in a competition with someone and you're having to work closely with them, you're never rooting for the other person. If you are, you're clearly
not in the competition.
Shouldn't be in the competition because you're not going to win.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be rooting for yourself, number one.
Yeah.
This is something I thought. Hey, how long have we been going?
We're just right at an hour.
Okay. Well, let's end it.
Do you want to watch your NASA video?
Oh, I don't need to see it. It was just we're getting ready to go to space and to the moon a lot more often now. We're in the process of building rockets right now that are.
Well, let's watch this and then we'll finish off with our opinions on this.
Okay. Okay. So, all I can say is it pays to be a winner. First thought I had when I was watching this was like, why doesn't the entire world get together and figure out how to make this more possible? We can put our minds together. And then I started thinking that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Capitalism.
One, there's going to be money. So just naturally people want money out of this. Two, if you work together as a world to get into space, who's going to take the credit? There's going to be a country that wants to take the credit. The person who takes the credit is going to have more power. Power is important, and you should have it. So it pays to be a winner. If you're the loser, you're more likely to be oppressed. You're more likely to be the one without the ability to make key decisions. So that's why we work together as single nations, and not as a world to do these things.
Mm-hmm. It's actually even different now. It's not even nations. It's NASA and private companies.
Yeah,
Like,
you want to be on top.
Well, I know Boeing and SpaceX is in front, but Amazon also with the Blue Horizon or whatever it is, they are all working with NASA. Like we used to work with other governments. They're bringing it to the table, man. Like SpaceX just had that automated launch to the space station. It docked without the mechanical arm, came back, they retrieved it, and it's like, they're like, we cannot. This is like landing on the moon. Like that was so significant, and like we self-drove to the International Space Station and docked. That means we can send people up to space that aren't astronauts.
We're eventually going to get to an episode about conspiracy theories, because there's people who believe there is no space and such right now. Here's what I got to say. I saw a picture from like the 60s when we went to the moon in the 60s, right?
1969.
69. I saw a picture of one of the engineers. It was a female. She was standing next to the code that had to be written to get the launch sequence to go down in the computer, and it was taller than her. And it was like, that code doesn't prove that we went to the moon, but it proves someone wrote all that fucking code to get to the moon. So, like, are we
Why?
Why
couldn't we just slip her a hundy and just say you did that?
Yeah, why couldn't you just pay her off? But
Why do we even need the code, right?
Thousands and thousands of pages of code. So that's the anchor and the buoy. We are blue-collar men and have to get out to real work today. We got to go install a retention pond out on a customer site. So, we got to, this is our dream to talk to the public and bring people together through hard work and success, but we got to go out and hard work and success ourselves. So
all right,
that's it. Anchor and the buoy. That's
Sign
your
it
opinion.
off.